What's up, airplane collectors? Welcome to a model airplane review. I'm your host, Ray. Today, I'll be reviewing the Skymarks 1/150th scale Alaska Airlines Airbus A321NEO in the More to Love special livery, item number SKR977. In this video, I'll do an in-depth review of the model and its accessories, after which I'll list off their pros and cons. At the end, I'll decide whether or not I recommend this model to other collectors. The box for this model is made from cardstock. The protective packaging on the inside is made from plastic. This box measures 36 centimeters long, 5.5 centimeters wide, and 12.5 centimeters tall. I'll show you on the box now. This is the front. Here's the bottom. Right side. Top. Left side. And the back side. Included in the box are parts to assemble the model and its display stand. Also included is this slip of paper, which is basically just a giant advertisement for more Skymarks models. Good luck trying to read that list, because I'm sure as hell not trying to read it to you guys. Excuse my language there, but yeah. And here are the assembly instructions. These instructions provide a visual reference on how to assemble the different parts of the model. This model is a snap fit model, meaning that it is up to the collector to perform the final assembly of the model. The parts on this model are pretty easy to figure out in terms of where they go, but there are a few parts which may be a bit more difficult. Now, one thing I wanted to point out is that here on the parts for the left wing, on the attachment points, you'll see a number 1 right there. For the parts for the right wing, you'll see a number 2. Oh, okay, there it is. There's the number 2. This isn't crucial with the wings, but it is a bit more important with the horizontal stabilizers, because these parts are rather small and it's very easy to flip them to the wrong way. This one here has the number 1, so it is for the left side. Once fully assembled, the fit for all parts is firm and sturdy enough to where they are not structurally compromised or they're not at any risk of falling. The only thing I wanted to point out in terms of the assembly is the attachment of the engines. These are a bit unusual in that the attachment isn't correctly made, if I can try and explain that. So, right now I have the engine fully inserted into its attachment point as it should be. Now, this is actually incorrect because you can very clearly see that the nacelle is pointing downwards. This is not accurate. You can also see a sizable gap between the front of the engine pylon and the nacelle itself. So, the way to counteract this and the proper way to mount it is like this. This is the best angle you're going to get. Yes, there is a bit of an angle from the engine inlet relative to the fuselage. That is actually accurate to the aircraft. But if you push this all the way, you're not going to get the correct angle of the engine nacelle. So what I use is the back of the nacelle and I kind of align it with the bottom end of the pylon here. Of course, here is the display stand. Once again, it's made entirely out of plastic, just like the model. It's 2 parts that go together. And last but not least, the stand goes into the model in a designated hole. Here's the model on its stand. Let's do a quick 360. The fuselage length for this model is 29.5 centimeters, and the wingspan is 24.4 centimeters. These dimensions are mostly accurate to 1/150th scale. The highest point of this model occurs at the top front section of the fuselage, and that height is 14.5 centimeters. This model and its accessories are made entirely out of high-density plastic. Let's begin the review with the fuselage. Overall, the fuselage is pretty decent. Most importantly, the nose shape is accurate to that of the A321neo, so no complaints there. There's also a decent amount of detail up here, although I could argue there should be a bit more. The detail that is present is accurate. Let's transition down the fuselage now, and I'm going to try adjusting the camera as best as I can. Here we start hitting the color fade. Now, the color fade on this model, it's not 100% accurate to the real aircraft, but it gets the job done in my opinion. I've seen worse, so I really won't harp on this too much. What I do find is rather inaccurate is how the sort of pinkish color starts right by the R in the more word right here. It should start closer to the M, because on the real aircraft, the fade starts way back here. Now, the placement of this and the coloring overall is pretty good. Maybe the coloring of the blue back here is a little bit too light, but not by very much. Let's keep moving down the fuselage now. So overall, the application of the paint and details has gone pretty flawless as well. Right from here, we'll move to the vertical stabilizer. This part, it's pretty simple. There's not too much going on here. The paint application is good, colors look good, shape is accurate. One thing that I do notice is that there isn't any recessed panel lines for the rudder. That's not a huge deal, but I just wanted to point that out. And here is the right side. Here on the right side of the fuselage, you'll notice a few differences from the left side, but overall, everything I've said about the left side is also applicable to the right side. So far, we're off to a pretty solid start. Here, I need to adjust this a bit more so you can see the nose up there. Oop, sorry about that. There we go. The wings on this model definitely leave something to be desired, in my opinion. I'm used to higher levels of detail, but this I think could have been much better. I'd argue that Skymarks could have done a better job with detailing. Now what I'm referring to is the overwing markings, like placards, stencils, and different colors of paint that exist on the real aircraft. These are obviously not replicated here. Now, a more concerning error is the missing flap track fairings that are exclusive to the A321. They're a bit smaller than the ones that you see present, but yeah, you can tell that this is just a generic A320 wing, and that's not entirely accurate. Worse yet, the recessed panel lines for the control surfaces aren't entirely accurate. There's a missing air brake on the inboard air brakes here, and on the outermost air brakes, we are also missing a split right here. Everything else looks decent, though. Same deal on the bottom of the wing, there's only recessed panel lines, and I can barely make out a gear door there. I'm not really sure what that's for, but it's cool nonetheless. So that's pretty nice. When the part is fully inserted into the model, the attachment with the fuselage is decent. Okay, I don't think there we go. All right, yeah. You have to push these things really hard sometimes, and they'll get put into place. But for the most part, it's a good fit, so no complaints there. The sharklets are also pretty decent. The shape is good, but the only issue, that's about the only good thing I can say about them. The issues with these is that the blue color here is printed on two sides of the sharklet as opposed to being colored all around. What I mean by that is that you can see a gray line coming through the paint here. That's not accurate to the real aircraft. And also the blue should kind of cut off the gray leading edge somewhere at the top here. And this issue is even more prevalent on the trailing edge here. If my arm wouldn't get in the way, that'd be great. Okay, you guys might be able to see. There you go. You can see the gray on the trailing edge. That's completely inaccurate. There are no gray or silver surfaces on the trailing edge of A320 family sharklets. So, yeah, these weren't perfect. Here, right from here, let's move into the horizontal stabilizers. Again, same story with the wings, although I don't have any egregious complaints against these. I just think these could be a bit more detailed. But aside from that, they're good. They fit to the aircraft nicely. Can't really complain about that. And while we're back here, let's talk about the APU. Oh, wait, there is none. There's nothing whatsoever to denote that this is the APU. I think they could have maybe painted something, but there really isn't anything back here. Earlier, we discussed the engine attachment issues, but how are the engines themselves? They're decent. We can see the Alaska title there on the nacelle. The color looks good. It matches, kind of matches the fuselage, not really. But yeah, there's not as much detail. There's no detail on here whatsoever in terms of printed or like placards and such. And the exhaust nozzle, this 3-part exhaust nozzle, that's not accurate. It should be one uniform part with different shades of gray and silver on there, but that's obviously not the case. So yeah, that's not too good. The fan detail is actually pretty decent. Unfortunately, for some reason, these fans don't spin, although they look like they're designed to. But yeah, I guess they don't. This is the best view I can give you of the front of the aircraft. Unfortunately, this model does not include any landing gear. The gears are permanently retracted. But here, the wing flex looks good. I can't say anything on engine clearance. Cockpit window printing might be a little bit slanted, but not by much. So once all the parts are attached, they fit very well, and there's no issues with disproportionate stuff or asymmetric wing angle. So that's good to see. That concludes my review. Let's go over the pros and cons. What did Skymarks do well on this model? Overall, it's a decent model all around. They captured the shape of the A321neo quite accurately. The paint colors across the fuselage, those are pretty good, and this is actually a very hard livery to recreate as a mass-produced scale model, and I think Skymarks did a pretty solid job for what this was. Yes, it's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty darn close. All of the paint application was good. I didn't see any imperfections, as is the printed detail application, the little that there is, and yeah, I think this is pretty solid. Now, in terms of cons, what can Skymarks work on? The detailing. I think there could have been a lot more detail on this model. I understand that this is more of a budget model, if you will. It's not supposed to be as detailed, but I think there could have been a bit more effort in that regard. Also, the attachment with the engines, that needs to be improved, because that is just wrong. That shouldn't be happening on a snap-fit model like this. It shouldn't be happening on any model, but especially a snap-fit model. Well, Taking all this into consideration, I do recommend this model to casual collectors. This is not a model for someone who's looking for a highly detailed model. Me personally, I collect highly detailed diecast airliners, hence why I complained a lot about the details. I'm used to a higher standard of detail. I'm not saying this is a bad model, I'm just saying it could be a bit more detailed, and it might not be right for certain collectors. However, if this is for a beginner, someone who's looking to start a collection, maybe a child, then I'd absolutely recommend this model to them because it's realistic enough to get the point across, but it's not highly realistic to the point where it can truly only be respected by an experienced collector or someone who is looking for a high level of detail. Well, that's all I've got for today. Thanks for watching. As always, if you have questions or feedback, be sure to leave a comment below. If you're new to the channel and you want to show some support, like this video and subscribe so you never miss another upload. While you're here, feel free to watch my other videos about the scale models I collect. Happy building, happy collecting, please take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.